I've been a keen photographer since the early 80s. I first went to Thailand in 1987 and I've been living permanently in Thailand since 2003. This video about photography in Thailand is simply a collection of tips that might be useful to other people. What it isn't is the usual YouTube clickbait. I could have called it 10 things you must know about taking photographs in Thailand. I think everyone's getting quite fed up with that sort of thing. Neither is it me telling you that I'm a better photographer than other people, because I'm not. And neither is it me telling you what you can take photos of and what you can't. You can take photos of whatever you want, but the section about what you should avoid taking photos of might help you to stay out of trouble. One more thing is that there's not much video in this video. I know that people come to YouTube to watch video, and some people get a bit upset when a video consists only of still photos, but as this is about photography, it does consist mainly of still photos. Now that we've established what the video is and isn't about, let's begin. Apart from a few months in the north of the country, Thailand is extremely hot and humid all year round. Back in my single days, I used a DSLR, and when I travelled around the country, my camera backpack was a lot heavier than the bag I used to carry clothes and toiletries. I remember carrying the backpack around for hours, sitting down for a cup of coffee, and then not wanting to continue because the bag was just too heavy. So my suggestion would be to take camera gear that is as light and as small as possible. In 2013, I moved to a small mirrorless system, and I've never looked back. I think these systems are absolutely fantastic. I chose Canon simply because I've been a Canon user for 40 years. I've always been impressed with Canon products and I have some brand loyalty. But really it doesn't matter what brand you buy because they're all very similar. This is my first mirrorless body, which was a bit slow. I replaced it with a Canon EOS M6, which has more megapixels, more features, it's more responsive, and it has the amazing dual pixel AF system. When I travel, I just use 4 lenses. A standard 18 to 55mm zoom, a wide angle 11 to 22mm zoom, a telephoto 55 to 200mm zoom, and this small pancake 22mm f2. I use this when I go out in the evening, and there are 2 reasons for that. Firstly, it's very small, and secondly, it's very good in low light. In addition to the lenses, there are a couple of other things I recommend. Firstly, I use a very small flash for those occasions when I need a little bit of fill flash, and a tripod for long exposure work. And this one works really well. It's made by Surui, it's carbon fibre, it's small, light, sturdy, and it wasn't actually that expensive. It costs around 150 US. And instead of having to haul a big heavy backpack around all day, I just use a small pouch for the camera and 1 lens, and I use a waist belt and 3 small lens cases for the other 3 lenses. This arrangement suits me perfectly. If you need to buy gear, it really depends on where you are. In Bangkok, you can buy absolutely everything, and some of the larger provincial cities have quite good camera shops. I live in the largest city in southern Thailand, and I can buy virtually anything I need. However, it's a very different story in rural Thailand. If you need to fill your car, you go to somewhere like this, and if you need any more than a memory card, you're not going to have many options. When you go to a new country, obviously safety is a concern, and the good news is that Thailand is fairly safe with very little violent crime. Unfortunately, the country has something of a reputation for scams, and lots of foreign tourists get scammed. If you can speak some Thai, it gets rid of scammers very quickly. But back in the days when I was a tourist, I got scammed myself. What you need to remember is that it's not normal behaviour for a Thai to walk up to a stranger in the street and offer assistance. If a Thai does approach you in the street and offers assistance, they don't want to help you, they want your money. So the best thing to do is just to politely tell them no thank you and continue walking. The biggest physical danger in Thailand is road accidents. Thai roads are horrendously dangerous, so be careful if you plan to rent a motorbike. When it comes to carrying around expensive camera gear day or night, I've always felt fairly safe in Thailand. Thailand isn't Japan or Singapore, but I feel safer walking around Bangkok than I do many other large cities of the world. There might be a lot of Thais who are prepared to scam you, but very few will be prepared to mug you. Hotels are generally safe, but remember that lots of people have access to your room. So if you have any valuables, put them in the safe in the room or use the safe deposit box at reception. Street photography is a lot of fun, but before I talk about street photography in Thailand, I'll tell you about my experience in the UK a few years ago. I left the UK in 2003 and my first trip back was in 2017 when I had to go back for an emergency visit. My hometown had changed beyond recognition. And I took a lot of photos, and I took photos of strange things, but there were reasons for doing so. For example, I used to park here when I went for some takeaway food. Nowadays, there isn't a single free parking spot in town. There are meters everywhere, and everywhere you park, you have to pay. So for that reason, I took a photo. Most of the shops I remember have now gone, but it surprised me that this camera shop I used to use is still there, so I took a photo. This empty building site used to be the location of a pub. The Charles Napier is where I spent a lot of time in my 20s. I think it's so sad that so many old pubs have now been demolished, so I took a photo. I admit that I was taking photos of strange things, but in the 5 days I was there, 3 people asked me why I took a photo, and I lost count of the number of disapproving looks I got for taking a photo. I don't know what's happened to British people, they're just so paranoid now. When you take a photo in the street, people look at you as if you're some kind of a terrorist. I'm very glad to say that isn't the case in Thailand. Most Thais enjoy having their photo taken, they will often pose for you, and you get a situation where if someone sees you taking photos, they will ask you to take their photo. It's completely different to my experience in the UK. Lots of Thais have quite colourful characters, and they in particular like to have their photo taken. If you are intending doing some street photography, you should set your alarm clock very early and plan to be out of bed before 6 o'clock. The monks do their alms rounds very early in the morning, around 6 AM, and a lot of the local markets open at around the same time. I enjoy quirky photographs, and there's no shortage of quirky behaviour in Thailand, so it's always worth looking out for the unusual. And because I never quite know when I'm going to find something unusual, I always make sure that I've got a camera with me. Not all Thais are happy, smiling, lovely people. There are some objectionable people, and of course you may just meet someone who's having a bad day. So occasionally someone will object to having their photo taken, but it's actually quite rare. I wouldn't take a photo to exploit anyone, but sometimes I do take photos to highlight social problems. With this photo, I did ask beforehand if I could take a photo, and I did put some money in their collection box. This photojournalistic style of photography isn't for everyone, but if you do it, you just need to use your own moral compass to determine what's acceptable and what's not. Occasionally, you'll be asked for money when you take a photo. On the street, you'll see fried insects for sale, and foreign tourists love to take photos of these. Insect vendors in the big tourist hotspots worked out they can make more money by charging foreigners for photographs than they could by selling the insects for food. They normally display a sign saying 10 baht or 20 baht for a photo, so it's up to you. If you want to take a photo, then you have to be prepared to pay the money. Thailand's ladyboys do the same thing, but they don't give you any warning. They stand in the street and they encourage tourists to take their photos. And as soon as that happens, they demand money. And if you try and give them 20 baht, they say it's not enough, they want 100 baht or 200 baht. And just to put this into perspective, a lot of Thais work for 300 baht a day. So these guys can earn a lot of money, and they do it in not a very nice way. They're very pushy, very aggressive, and I just don't like the way they carry on. So personally, I just ignore them and walk straight past. This young lad asked me for 20 baht to take a photo of him diving off a bridge, but I got quite a good shot, and I actually think it was quite good value for money. Every year, Thailand becomes more westernised, but the Western-style shopping malls and department stores are really boring. Fortunately, a lot of the traditional markets still exist, and these are full of photo opportunities. There are fresh food markets, flower markets, markets for used clothes, antiques, floating markets of course, and other kinds of markets. To find out where your local markets are, just ask a local person or your hotel staff. Festivals occur quite frequently in Thailand, and attending a festival is another good opportunity to get photos. Thailand has a large Chinese population, and Chinese New Year in January or February is always a big event. The Chinese Vegetarian Festival is quite a spectacle, but it's quite gory with lots of self-mortification and blood. I've got hundreds of photos, but most will be censored by YouTube. Loy Krathong is a very civilised festival, watching Thais float their krathongs in the nearest body of water, and it also gives them a chance to get dressed up in national costume. Songkran is completely uncivilised, and it's the one Thai festival I dislike because it's just aquatic anarchy. If you participate in Songkran, it basically gives other people a free licence to douse you with water. And it doesn't matter how much expensive camera gear you might have on you, they will still douse you with gallons of water. Lots of foreigners do enjoy Songkran, but if you want to join in and take photos, make sure you've got a waterproof camera or a waterproof housing. I took this photo in Krabi. It's not a bad photo, but it's not particularly good either. If I'd taken it on my first trip to Thailand in 1987, people would have remarked on it. However, these days people find this sort of image completely uninteresting. If you do a Google image search for Krabi, this is what you'll get. 1 million photos that all look basically the same. According to the Thai Tourist Authority, 40 million visitors came to Thailand in 2019. Thailand has been a centre of mass tourism for so long, and so many millions of photos have been taken, that these kind of images have just been turned into cliches. There's nothing wrong with taking cliche photographs, I do it myself, but what I would suggest is just to try to take a few photos that are a bit different to what everyone else is taking photos of. When foreign tourists go to a Thai temple, most will just stand back and try to get in the whole temple. But if you look closely, there's lots of small detail that makes for interesting photos. At a temple in Bangkok, these roof tiles caught my eye. Near to where I live, there's a temple with lots of signs about Buddhist philosophy, and I also find that sort of thing quite interesting. Buddhist monks may be unusual where you come from, but they're not unusual in Thailand. It's traditional for every Buddhist male to ordain as a monk at some stage during his life. Now, foreign tourists will want to take photos of monks, and most photos will be quite boring. But if you give it a little bit of thought, there are ways you can make those photos just a little bit more interesting. As I said at the start of the video, you can take photos of whatever you want, but I always think it's nice to stand out from the crowd and have photos that are just a little bit different, rather than having photos that are exactly the same as the millions of other cliche photographs that are out there already. Regarding boring places, the terms interesting and boring are very subjective. For me personally, the most boring places in Thailand are the well-known beach resorts. I don't need to name them, I think you know the places I mean. When I travel thousands of miles to an exotic country in Southeast Asia, the last thing I want to see are beer bars, fast food restaurants, Indian tailor shops, tattoo parlours, rows of sunbeds, and hordes of Western tourists. However, that's just my personal opinion, and it's entirely up to you where you go. I don't know if it's coincidence, but the most interesting places I've been to in Thailand have all been on the Burmese border. Mae Sai, and especially Sangkhlaburi, Three Pagodas Pass, and Mae Sot. I thoroughly enjoyed Chiang Rai, but Chiang Mai just has too many foreigners living there for my liking. The historic parks, Ayutthaya and Sukhothai, are well worth visiting. There are lots of visitors, but most tend to be Thai. Bangkok was a fascinating place, but it's changing rapidly, and as it changes, the old interesting places are being demolished and replaced with Western-style shopping malls, department stores, condominiums and office buildings. It's really quite sad. You still can find the old interesting places, but finding them is a lot more difficult now than it used to be. As I said earlier, Thais are quite relaxed about photography, but there's a few things to remember. If you visit a temple, dress appropriately. Don't climb on Buddha statues for photo opportunities, and definitely don't touch the heads of Buddha statues, and that applies to people as well. A few years ago, there were a couple of idiots who were going around well-known landmarks taking photos of their bare buttocks, and they did it in an important Thai temple. They were arrested, and I think they got jail time, and if you do anything as stupid as this, you deserve all the jail time you get. Thailand, like all other countries, has concerns about national security, so be careful about taking photos around airports, military bases and official government offices. In case you didn't realise, Thailand has the most revered and protected monarchy in the world. I took this photo of the Queen's motorcade when she visited town in 2005. On a couple of other occasions, I've been in the presence of royalty and I've gone to take a photo, but before I've even got my camera up to eye level, a policeman has appeared telling me to put my camera away. If you do happen to encounter royalty while in Thailand, photography is generally not a good idea. I don't have a drone, but Thailand has very strict drone laws. I haven't covered them here, but on my website I do have a page about drone laws in Thailand, and I'll leave a link below. I doubt that many people will have made it to this part of the video, but if you have, don't take anything too seriously. I just hope that one or two of these tips has been useful. Enjoy your trip to Thailand, and thanks for watching.